We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scholars of Wrestling Show, episode 332. I am your man behind a microphone and your current reigning defending Scholars of Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion, Scholar Jeff. On the other side of the screen, you know him, you love him, and he is the new number one contender for this illustrious belt. The one and only Mr. Scholar Brian. Scholar Brian, how's your evening going, sir?
It's going pretty good, knowing that even if I don't have any insider information at all, okay, I still know all the backstage bits of what's going on in AEW, apparently, because me, in a nutshell, just basically giving you who is going to debut on Revolution is why we are having this title match at Fastlane.
There were still some surprises to be had at
Oh,
AEW Revolution.
certainly, some good, some very not so good. But 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 in all of the things that matter to the scholars of wrestling, heavyweight championship. All right, I overwhelmingly came out on top because of those backstage bits that I mentioned about 30 seconds ago.
If by overwhelmingly won, you mean won by a single point, then yes, it was pretty overwhelming.
Hey, compared to how predictions with us normally go, a solid victory is an overwhelming win at this point.
Hey, doesn't matter, like the man says, if it's by an inch or a mile, winning's winning.
Indeed.
But anyway, for those of you who haven't been live tweeting with us and watching AEW Revolution, let's take a step back in time and let's see how we got to all this madness and the road therein. This is our review of AEW Revolution 2021. Starting first off with, out of the gate right quick, on the pre-show, we got the team of Britt Baker and Maki Itoh showing up finally. I gotta say, I was surprised by this, but at the same time, it was just like I kind of figured it had to happen, but I didn't expect it to happen now. And they actually beat Riho and Thunder Rosa. I gotta say, out of all the ways I could be wrong, is probably one of the better ways I could have been proven wrong.
Agreed. It's one of those things where it's like, out of everything that happened in that tournament, okay, the tournament itself was great. Okay, got us a whole bunch of new names, got us a whole bunch of new faces. Every match was good, but out of everyone, the following that followed Maki Itoh, okay, there was no way that she was not going to be seen in an AEW ring again. There was no way. You couldn't. Just the reaction, just watching Twitter when they announced the tournament and Maki Itoh was one of the participants. Just watching Twitter when they announced her name, okay, you knew right away that there was something here, even if you weren't like a connoisseur of Japanese women's wrestling. Okay, you were like, holy shit, everyone on Twitter is going nuts right now for Maki Itoh. I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about this woman. Let me go on YouTube and check this woman out, and let me tell you, okay, every bit of it is earned. And just watching this match, okay, Britt Baker once again proves that she is next in line for the women's championship. Okay, that she's still the one I've got being the one to actually beat Hikaru Shida. Okay, she's basically the only one you could have at this point, and just Maki Itoh. It's spectacle at this point, and so good, so
Yeah,
good.
pretty
Oh,
much at this point. Yeah. Uh, as much as I have a hard time getting on board with Britt Baker, unlike some other people who are we'll talk about later on in the show. But at the same time, this was not for her. This as soon as she stepped out, this was very clearly Maki Itoh's coming out party, and I guarantee you that must have piqued a lot of interest and spiked a lot of pay-per-view buys for that night.
I don't know about pay-per-view buys per se, but I will say, okay, obviously she's a Japanese talent. So she's going back over to Japan once her little run right here ends. But I expect that within the next 6 months to a year, we're gonna get that tweet with the photo saying that Maki Itoh is all elite.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which for me, it's the reason why Thunder Rosa didn't go farther in the tournament than I thought she would, or anything like that. If you don't have the graphic, if you don't have the if it's not confirmed that you are all elite, okay, then it's hard for me to actually see you like in the title picture. But here's the deal with Maki Itoh. Okay, star power, it's there. Okay, she does a concert coming to the ring. Okay, that's her entrance. And when she actually starts wrestling, it's these the entrance isn't like it. Okay, that's not her, and she enters the ring doing a concert, and then she's kind of bad in the ring. No, that's not how it is. Okay, that's it.
I'll tell
It's
you
it.
what, for me, I thought of it this way, and this might come as a diss, but it's not. This, if you know my preferences and who I'm a fan of, this is gonna come across as a compliment. I see her as the Toru Yano of Joshi women's wrestling, where she's not the most technically sound, but damn if she's not entertaining to watch, and she can work with pretty much anybody. Does that make
DVD
sense?
Selena?
Not my choice of words, but did what I say make any sense at all?
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. Just it but either way, this this pre-show match, if you weren't sold on buying the pay-per-view before this, I don't know how you couldn't with all the build that was going into it. But if you weren't sold, I think this did a pretty good job of telling you what you could possibly be in for.
And I think that's exactly the point. Even if you're, because obviously Maki Itoh, outside of the hardcore wrestling fan audience, you really don't know what this is about. But even so, even if you don't know who she is, to me, it still contributed to that vibe of anything can happen tonight. You're not going to want to miss this. Pony up the $50 and buy the pay-per-view.
Yeah, and it's in Scholars of Wrestling talk, the appetizer was good.
I'm biting my tongue, and let's yeah, it was a good opener. We liked it. Moving on before I got myself in trouble. Moving on to the card. Moving on to the card proper, we also got the Young Bucks defeating the team of Chris Jericho and MJF. And who boy, there was some fallout from this one this week.
Oh, the fallout was nuts. But starting off at the pay-per-view, this match was basically everything it needed to be. Okay, the Young Bucks were the Young Bucks, super kick party, and the Young Bucks are always going to give you a good time. And Chris Jericho and MJF are the heels, healing it up, and they know how to put on a tag team title match. So this was basically everything it needed to be. And knowing what came on Dynamite this week, knowing that this match was basically a storyline pusher, everything that happened in this match makes sense.
Yeah, not to mention the match itself absolutely delivered 100%.
Yeah, for an opening match, you couldn't get much better. This is exactly the kind of match that you would hope would be the curtain jerker for your show. And a curtain jerker not like being used in a bad way, but it's I don't know why people would say like being the curtain jerker is a bad thing. It's like the first match of the show gets you into the show. Okay, if the first match isn't good, then you're not into it.
Yeah, and I don't think that of the people who are critical of that sort of thing, they seem to be going into this with the mentality of, okay, if you're not in the main event, then you suck. Like if you're not first or last, Ricky Bobby style. Not so much. And
No,
this
it's
was
like,
really proof of that.
Yeah, it's like I think you're more trusted. Quite honestly, I think if they put you up first, you're more trusted than the people in the main event. For
I don't
me,
know if you're a listener of the Busted Open radio show, but that's one thing Bully Ray always says. Like for him, the most coveted spot is that opening match because you set the pace, you build the excitement for the rest of the show. You're just as important, if
exactly.
not more important.
Exactly. Like I'm not a full-time listener of Busted Open Radio, but I'm like, if you get that opening match spot, okay, they are trusting you to start off the show and set the tone. They're trusting you to set the tone for the rest of the night. If you fail in the opening match, okay, the show already is off the rails from the get-go. So it's like when the Young Bucks, Chris Jericho, and MJF came out, and I'm like, of course this would be the opening match. It has to be. I'm like, these four guys. Okay, you couldn't pick four better guys to open a show with, and they proved everybody right. And the right team won. Okay, it was not time to change the titles, and knowing what we know now, going into Dynamite and everything that happened there, okay, this was a storyline pusher to get to the point where we're now going to have Inner Circle versus MJF's Four Horsemen or whatever they decided to call that team. But I mean, like, this is the new Inner Circle versus the Elite. This is the buildup to whatever Stadium Stampede Blood and Guts match that they were going to have, or they did have last year. That's going to be the build for what's going to happen at Double or Nothing this year.
And there it is. They delivered this night. I'm sure with all the talent in that ring, they're absolutely going to deliver again. Excuse me. But speaking of delivering, next up we had the Casino Tag Team Battle Royal that was won by your boys, your pick, Death Triangle. Too bad that Pentagon could not be a part of it, but yeah, Pentagon or not, what a way to go.
Yeah, I'm not mad the Pentagon wasn't a part of it, because he got to be part of the ladder match later. But this was a battle royal as battle royals go. Okay, it was wonky at times. Okay, some things didn't work, some things did, and then it got down to Phoenix. It got down to the end of it. Phoenix versus Jungle Boy, and oh boy, this was probably the best final two that this match could have had, and they went out and they performed. Like, this is, I don't want to put it up on lofty heights, because battle royals don't really get that, but they put enough time and effort into this where I was getting Michaels and Taker flashbacks for Phoenix, and I'm not saying it was as good as that, but I'm saying, like, that it's rare that the final twos of Royal Rumbles and Battle Royals get the amount of time that these guys did. The last one I can remember was Michaels and Taker.
Okay, that is a fair comparison. I will grant you that. I'm guessing you saw the look on my face when you said that, like,
Yeah,
those two,
I'm not
Taker,
go,
Michaels,
Michaels and Taker, that was on a different level. But I mean, like, that, it's rare that the final twos of Battle Royals and Royal Rumbles get to actually have time to flesh out a decent ending to said match. And those are always what makes the match better for me. So I could have done without a lot of this battle royal. Okay, there were too many teams in it. Okay, not enough of them got time to do their stuff. It was wild, and sometimes not in a good way. Okay, but what it came down to is what made the match. And Jungle Boy, we know he was going to be a star. This just continues to prove it. And Phoenix is Phoenix, man. That's
yeah,
it.
I definitely feel like Ray Phoenix is one of those guys who's, this is how I see it. Maybe you've got a different viewpoint on this. I get the impression that Ray Phoenix is one of those guys who knows how good he is, but feels like he has to constantly show off how good he is, because a lot of people are, between the two of them, I think a lot of people are still like focusing on Pentagon, like, okay, he's the future main eventer, he's the Michaels, Ray Phoenix is the Jannetty. And I feel like I get the sense that he's really striving to avoid that pitfall of just avoiding that and just having like this be like a double Michaels team. Does that make
I
sense?
honestly think that went out the window a long time ago. Like, when AEW first started, yeah, I would have been on the same wavelength as you. Because I'm like, I know Pentagon. I don't really know this Phoenix character. So I would have been on the same wavelength as you at the beginning of AEW. But after about 4 to 6 months, I'm like, that never even set foot in my mind. And quite honestly, okay, if you're talking to me, I prefer Phoenix over Pentagon.
Okay, I can see that. Maybe this is
I,
just me being a Pentagon fanboy, wanting them to go into the AEW title picture. But
yeah, I feel like Pentagon got injured a little while back, right?
yeah, he just recently
So
came back after an injury.
yeah, so Phoenix got all that time to branch out on his own, kind of deal. So I never felt in Phoenix's case that there was any shot of a Michaels Jannetty situation. Like I actually thought at some point like Phoenix was gonna overtake Pentagon
Hmm.
and become the Michaels to and but you know what? Just Phoenix and Pac against the Young Bucks. Come on, bro. that
It
that's
practically writes itself.
that 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 that's not going to be a pay-per-view main event, but it'll be a nice little appetizer main event on a Dynamite to lead the way into honestly what I think at Double or Nothing is going to be if you looked on Instagram today, okay, the tag team for the name for this certain tag team is Outlaw Inc. And we're going to touch on that a little later during the main event, if you will. but
All right then.
but yeah, if any time you can give me Pac and Ray Phoenix versus the Young Bucks, yeah.
Hmm. Hey, say no more. And moving on, the next match in the card, we also got Hikaru Shida defending her title against Rio Mizunami. It was around this time. I don't know if you got this impression. The match itself wasn't bad by any means, but I think it was about here that the high was starting to diminish, and I was starting to lose it. But damn, if these ladies didn't do their damnedest to keep focus and keep the energy levels high for the show as a whole.
The problem was the build. Okay, the tournament was great and whatever, but you had the problems with Bleacher Report. Okay, where people couldn't even watch the show overseas. Okay, there was a lot of issues with this tournament that we didn't talk about on the show. Like it's all good having a tournament, but you got to have the tournament on shows where the mainstream masses will be able to watch. Okay, not everybody wants to go online and see shows on Bleacher Report. People
Yeah,
want it. Not everybody wants to go online and watch tournaments on Dark. Okay, you got to have some of these matches on Dynamite for it to work. So, and the problem is, okay, Rio Mizunami, as much as she may be a name on the Japanese front, okay, if you're going into a major pay-per-view, okay, people who are buying that pay-per-view want to see the women's title defended against a name that they know. So the match itself was great. No one is yelling about the work rate. Okay, it's just like, okay, once Rio Mizunami was the contender, okay, we knew that Hikaru Shida was going to win. We knew that she was going to win, and the belt and the tournament that they had, honestly, while the matches were all great, we got to know a whole bunch of names. A little bit of a disappointment based on how it was conceived and how it played out, how it was shown.
I will buy that. I feel like you're right. They definitely could have aired a whole lot of these other matches on Dynamite. Um, I'm guessing that there was some sort of big logistical reason why they couldn't or chose not to.
Oh, I'm
But at the
sure the
same time, it's
Japanese.
like, I don't know.
Yeah, the Japanese wrestlers, I believe, did it in Japan, and there was the whole COVID and the whole uh, hibernation period and all that deal, which is fine,
Yeah, I'm
which is
just
good.
talking about like when they taped the matches, they could have very easily, at least I think they could have, just aired them on an episode of Dynamite instead of just throwing them up on the YouTube channel.
Exactly, and instead of having the tournament be a month long, which is how they did it. Okay, when was the last pay per view? November. Okay, so you had 3 months. Okay, you could have played it over that time, and as much as the match is good, that does hurt the level of we're going into this match excited to see this match. Hikaru Shida versus Rio Mizunami. Okay, well, some of us are excited to see this match. A whole bunch of people are like, okay, um, I've never seen this person wrestle ever. Okay.
Yeah. Look, it really, my impression was this was one of those matches that, again, even though the hardcores knew that they would deliver, for if you were less of a hardcore fan and you didn't know, let's say you didn't know who Ryu Mizunami was, that this match could just serve as a bit of a breather for what was to come, for like the high energy big names that we're going to see later. And I honestly got that same impression from the match that followed. We got Miro and Keep Sabian defeating the best friends, Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor. Uh, Miro, in case you didn't see it, Miro just barreled right in, attacked Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor, and off to the races we go, dividing the team of the best friends, dragging Chuck Taylor out to the ring before Orange Cassidy could hobble out. Match. They just can't overcome the odds, and Miro and Kip Sabian win. Same deal. I thought that this was just sort of a different change of pace to just get people rested up and just ready and energized for what was to come.
And the problem is, okay, when you watch Dynamite afterwards, you're like, okay, Miro beat the shit out of both of them basically by himself. So it's like, we're done here, right? We're done here. We're moving on. Nope. Come Dynamite, we're back. We're still having Miro and Kip Sabian versus the best friends in a feud. Good Lord, it is past time for this feud to be done. It is past time for Miro to be doing something different. Okay, it's him beasting out on the best friend should have been like his coming out party and just be like, okay, we're now starting you off in the stratosphere. What are you gonna do now? Nope, we come into Dynamite and we're still playing video games and still doing the whole Miro and Kip Sabian versus the best friends bit. I'm like, you killed them. You killed them dead at Revolution. What are we doing?
Well, they're playing video games, so obviously they respawned.
Oh, why?
Crickets. Hey, I never say it had to be perfect.
I never said it had to be perfect. I'm just saying at this point it has to be over.
Well, I'll
It's
tell you
getting to
what.
the point. It's getting to the point where it's like I'm not excited to see Miro on screen anymore because it's like I'm not excited to see Orange Cassidy on screen anymore
And
because
you
it's
take
like
that back, sir.
no,
I will
no,
not
I
have
will
such
not.
blasphemy in my
I will
presence.
not because I know he's either gonna get the shit beat out of him by Miro or we're gonna have some bullshit best friends versus Miro and Kip Sabian segment, and I'm fucking done.
All right. Well, bringing us back down, I'll gotta say on the converse of that, going into this next match, I felt the same way about this next match. Adam Page defeating Matt Hardy. You made a declaration, I believe it was you, where you said that you believe that Adam Page was the next big face in line to become the AEW champion. And I got to admit, I didn't buy into that. I don't believe I said anything at the time, but this match right here, this is the match that made me believe that, you know what, maybe there's something here. Maybe Adam Page actually is the face that can take the AEW championship. He's already one of the first contenders for the title when it was first conceived, and he only seems to be doing better with time, and everything seems to be coming full circle. He's winning, he's having good matches, he's over. I think I'm starting to come around to your line of thinking where for Hangman Page, it's just a matter of time.
The deal for me is it's the long-term storytelling here. Okay, this Kenny Omega broke up the tag team because he was like Adam Page is down on himself. I can't be around this guy. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks turned away from Adam Page because of how he was acting and because of the drinking problems and all that. So it's the long-term storytelling where Adam Page is going to be the one to get, where Hangman Page is going to be the one to take the title away from Kenny Omega, the man who turned on him without attacking him, but basically turned away from him because of Hangman Page's morale at the point in time. It was not good, but this whole storyline with the Dark Order and Hangman Page is about building him up, building up his self-esteem to the point where when it comes time, which I'd probably say around Full Gear, November time. I'd probably say around Full Gear, we're going to have Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega, and Hangman Page in epic babyface mode. Probably at that time will be the top babyface of the company. He's well on his way at this point. And just based off of this match, okay, Matt Hardy is the guy that you want at the beginning of a face build, of a epic babyface build to greatness world title wise, because Matt Hardy will give you everything. Will give you everything to put you over. Okay, and that's exactly what he did. This match was the catalyst. It was the beginning of the epic babyface build to whenever Hangman Page takes the title away from Kenny Omega, whenever that may be. This was the start, and Matt Hardy was the perfect foil.
I really can't disagree with that logic at all. Again, this is mark it down. Whoever, Tarek, if you're watching this, mark it down in your record books. This is the point right here where I started to come around to Scholar Brian's way of thinking. He made an Adam Page believer out of me. But until that day finally comes, we had the Face of the Revolution ladder match, which Scorpio Sky eventually won, but not before we had a debut of All Ego Ethan Page, just like you called it. Which I can't believe you did.
Well, the deal is, I knew that he had left Impact about 2 months prior. Okay, Impact doesn't have the same kind of non-compete clauses that WWE has. So he could have shown up whenever. And I knew there were going to be two names that debuted tonight. One was not going to be the Hall of Fame worthy name. And it was someone who you could believe would slot right in to TNT title contention. Whether they won the match or not, they would belong in there. Okay, and Ethan Page was a guy who was the charismatic one of the top tag team, arguably, in wrestling last year. So yeah, Impact kind of screwed him over on the way out with this whole Karate Man deal. But it's just one of those things where you needed a name that wasn't as big as who you had debuting later on. And it just made sense to me, out of everybody who was on the market, who you would need full-time afterwards. Okay, this was never going to be a part-time gig. So yeah, Ethan Page just jumped out to me.
Well, again, the logic makes sense. I think looking back, I may have just gone with my heart on my picks and my expectations for that matter. I won't deny that he absolutely fits in this match. But then again, this entire match, as good as it was, that same principle applies, I believe, where I wouldn't have picked Scorpio Sky to win. He deserves it, I'm sure, but it's not like one of those absolutely mind-blowing, like, okay, stop the world, I need to watch Dynamite next week to see what happens next.
I can agree with that, but knowing what happened on Dynamite after he lost said championship match, I'm like, this. Do I agree with number one contender type ladder matches, multi-man ladder matches, being storyline filler matches to build storylines further on? Not in the strictest sense, but knowing afterwards when he lost in the TNT title match and beat the holy hell out of Darby Allin afterwards and turned epic heel, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it storyline wise. Would he have been my winner? No, I still would have went Archer. And I would have had Archer become TNT champion, because why are you putting Archer in main events and then having him in a ladder match at a pay-per-view for a number one contendership slot for whatever title and then having him lose? Doesn't really make sense to me. But if you're doing it as a storyline build-up for better things for Scorpio Sky, fine. Whatever. The match itself is great. No botches. I enjoyed every second of it. Would Scorpio Sky have been my winner? Probably not. But what we got out of it afterwards works for me.
Oh, hey, what do they say? Hindsight is always 2020. Well, this one that seems to apply with the logic to that match. But moving on to the actual and still TNT champion today, we've got Darby Allin and Sting defeating Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. I think this was a fairly safe bet. What I don't think anyone really anticipated was how this whole match was going to go down. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed this. They did right by everyone involved, as far as I'm concerned. They had some great visual effects with going from location to location in this whole sort of abandoned warehouse or whatever you want to call it. There's tons of great spots, tons of great stunts, great camera work, great consistency with this, like taking the bat and throwing it up to the second level, having them come up and actually grab the bat. Or I was really impressed with it. I always thought it was all pulled off really, really beautifully. And this, mm, I can't call it my match of the night, but damn if it's not up there.
I can and I will call this my match of the night. But this was everything it needed to be. Okay, it's a cinematic match, so everything that Sting did works. Okay, everybody got their time to shine. As you said, the stunts were great. The the epic moves were great. The right team won. Okay, and the team that took the loss looked absolutely awesome in defeat. Okay, so it didn't hurt anybody, which is the big thing here, because yeah, Sting had to win. Sting's team had to win, but you couldn't kill Cage and Starks in the process. Okay, you couldn't do that. And they didn't. And the fact that later on it came out that Darby Allin produced most of this, like this was Darby Allin's brainchild.
All right, I have to confess, I didn't even know that. That
Yeah,
that makes
like
a couple spots make a whole lot a heck of a more sense than in context, but yeah, if
yeah,
true, Darby did a bang up job.
yeah, like 75 to 80% of this match is Darby's brainchild. Okay, like he went and did he did like producing stuff in school when he went to school and all that. He was like, I want to produce this match, and this is mostly him. Okay, most of it is him, and if that's the case, wow, bang up job for your first time, buddy.
Yeah, this whole a lot of things and little details in this match absolutely had like a film school kind of feel. Obviously with a much larger budget, but hearing that this makes a lot more sense. And you know what? Screw it. This is my match of the night. It was largely flawless. It's did what it had to do. It told a great story. Cinematography was great. Kudos to Darby for pulling it all together. Good show, my man.
Yeah, and as I said, it made Sting look real good, and that's the goal here. It made Sting look good and win. It made Darby look good as his tag team partner, and it made Cage and Starks look really good in defeat. And that's all we could have really asked for. So kudos. Good job. Keep it
And
going.
and speaking of getting everything we asked for, we had the penultimate segment before our main event, the big reveal of the big signing, and it's Christian Cage. I'm just going to come right out and say it. I found this a little disappointing.
Here's the
guess.
deal. Here's the deal. I understand why a whole bunch of people would find this disappointing because they said Hall of Fame worthy, and all of a sudden people went nuts and started going to the top names or whatever. It's like, and I'm sitting here like, there's a whole bunch of people who are Hall of Fame worthy. They didn't say that this was going to be a game changer. They didn't say that this was going to be a ratings mover. They just said it was a Hall of Fame worthy talent. So in my mind, everyone's going Brock Lesnar, CM Punk. I'm like, no, no, it was never going to be one of them. Okay, who's available? Who is Hall of Fame worthy? Okay, I know that Tarek says that Christian Cage isn't Hall of Fame worthy, but here's the deal. Yes, he is. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's one of those. Is he the first name that comes to mind when you hear that kind of praise given out? No, because everybody jumps to the highest bit where they're like, oh, they're talking about a game changer. They're talking about a ratings mover. They're talking about, no, that was never said. Everyone just leaped to that conclusion, which is what internet wrestling community fans do. So it's like, yeah, okay, that's what, so it's expected. And yeah, so whatever happens is going to be a disappointment. I'm like, no, the entire time, I'm like, Christian's not signed to a WWE contract. He just showed that he can go in the Royal Rumble. Okay, and
That
they said it's someone who can wrestle multiple matches. And it's one of Tony Khan's favorite performers. I'm like, it's Christian. It's Christian. It's going to be Christian. I said that, and here it is. That's it.
Yeah, you called it. There's no two ways around it. Yeah, you basically confirmed why I was suspecting that. So, not the entire wrestling community, and by extension myself. I think everyone just sort of got on the hype train and just started believing it and just started going to the most crazy astronomical things and just blew it up all on its own. So that by the time Christian came out, I was like, okay, cool. But again, it's that one's on me. It's not nothing, no flaws on Christian Cage's part. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie that at the time I was a little bit underwhelmed.
Yeah, because it's like it's an impulse when someone says Hall of Fame worthy to be like, okay, yeah, it's the game changer. We're gonna get a big name that everybody knows in here. It's gonna change the game. It's gonna raise the stakes. It's like, no, doesn't really have to. That's
Well, unfortunately, that wouldn't be the only underwhelming thing that night, because that brings us, of course, to our main event, the exploding barbed wire death match, which featured, as we all called, Kenny Omega defeating Jon Moxley. This was honestly a pretty damn solid match. Lots of blood, lots of explosions, and then the very end happened. And
I'm
everyone,
going to talk about the match first because everybody forgets that the match ended and it's the end of show angle that underwhelmed.
I agree 100%.
Everyone forgets that. It's like the end of the match angle takes down the entire match itself. No, it doesn't. The match itself, okay, was awesome. Everything about it. Okay, everything that happened in this match showed you exactly what they wanted to show you. Okay, there were no mistakes. Everything was perfectly well done in the match. And I could have done without the Good Brothers interference. I would have liked to see Kenny Omega actually win it for himself, but everything, it'll come back to get him in the end. I know that. It's Kenny Omega, man. Okay, at some point you're gonna have to win one for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this would have been the one for me. I would have been like, okay, I'm on board. Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers and Don Callis. But Kenny Omega can win an exploding an exploding barbed wire death match by himself against Jon Moxley. Awesome. Cool. He's dangerous by himself, and he's got all these people with him. But it's the same thing with Roman Reigns at this point. But it's the whole deal. So that was disappointing at the end. But the ending itself of the barbed wire exploding in his face, the barbed wire bat exploding in Jon Mox's face, and then taking the one-winged angel through a chair, that was nasty as hell.
Yeah, I had no problems with the level of violence and just how they escalate everything during the match itself.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it very much.
So the match itself gets an overwhelming A+ for me.
And then to quote Marvin the Martian from that classic Warner Brothers cartoon, "Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom."
Now I enjoy the way that they played it out on Dynamite. Okay, and we have to understand that this has happened in every single exploding test match. It happened in Foley versus Terry Funk. There was supposed to be a big boom, didn't happen. Okay, so this is not anything new. Okay, the problem is it's AEW. AEW is under a microscope right now. So any botches that happen, whether it's your fault or not, are going to be put under the microscope by everyone. And that is what happened here. Because let me tell, I actually think that the botch helped Eddie Kingston more than it hurt. I actually think it did, because Eddie Kingston came out to save his frenemy, if you will, rival, from like what he thought was going to be an explosion. Okay, that didn't happen. And that, if you're looking at like character based and not based on what was supposed to happen, okay, that can actually help out Eddie Kingston a lot. Okay, but here's the deal. Okay, everybody went into this angle expecting a huge ass explosion, fireworks, smoke, possible fire coming out of the ring, and all that, and you didn't get it. So you're gonna be the brunt of a few jokes for God knows how long. But
more like a couple days.
But I need everyone to understand. This is not new. This is not the first time that something like this has happened in one of these matches. Okay, the problem is now there's social media, it's under the microscope, so everything that goes wrong that isn't your fault, okay, is going to be magnified 500 million times.
Then again, I feel like they did the absolute right thing in order to counteract this by putting their two best talkers immediately on screen in Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. And I saw someone else put it this way, and I totally agree with it. Eddie Kingston could sell a comb to a bald man. Like,
I feel like both of them could, and you put them together.
yeah, they're like, okay, when in doubt, when in emergency, break glass. Kingston Moxley combo, cut a promo, go. And it worked.
And it worked. And for everybody who said it didn't work, okay, they never wanted it to work in the first place. They're all like, the bomb didn't explode. Fuck AEW. That's just their mindset. That's how it is. But it's the same thing in WWE. Okay, when shit doesn't work, you counteract. You do what needs to be done to make the botch make sense. Okay, so you had Eddie Kingston talk about flashbacks, panic attacks. You had Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston say that Impact paid for the bomb. You had Moxley make Acme references and just be like, if you have a weapon, you gotta use it. You had the chance to take me out. You had the chance to take both of us out. And now we're both still here. So it's like you had the funny, you had the badass, you put them both together, an epic segment, and then you had Kenny Omega make 69 jokes.
Hey, not everything can be flawless in its execution. I think we all know that now.
Yeah, and it's Kenny Omega, so it's expected that he's got to make a joke out of it, and just like, and now we're getting Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega, and we're getting the Good Brothers versus Outlaw Inc., which I alluded to earlier. Moxley and Kingston. Moxley has said that he wants a tag team title run. He wants a tag team run in his time in AEW. What and who better than his indie friend, the man who he had such great rivals turned partners. Greatness personified. I think at Double or Nothing, we see Moxley and Kingston versus the Young Bucks.
Now that would be one hell of a match. One I really am looking forward to seeing. With all that being, yes, go on.
So it's AEW had to make lemonade out of lemons. They got sour lemons, and when I ruined that whole thing.
I was gonna say, what else do you make lemonade out of? They made chicken salad out of chicken shit. Yeah.
Yeah, they had a whole shit ton of chicken shit shoveled on their laps at the end of Revolution. They had to make chicken salad, and I believe that they did a very good job out of it. They did the best they could in the circumstances they were given, and that's all we can really ask for.
Absolutely. Now, all that being said, now that we've covered the entire show, let's close the book on AEW Revolution. What is your overall beard rating, 1 out of 5, for the show as a whole? Because I know I've got a couple numbers in my mind that I gone back and forth with. I want to know what you think, really.
I'm gonna go classic goatee. It was a full beard before the bomb.
It always comes down to the bomb and how
it
you
was
see
a full
it.
beard before the bomb, but it's the whole. It wasn't a perfect show. You had the cool down matches. It wasn't their best effort, but it wasn't their worst. So I'm like, everything was watchable, everything was good. So I was gonna go full beard, and then the bomb fizzled out, and it's like, that's a huge ending angle. Like that, I'm pretty sure that was supposed to write Moxley off TV at the very least, and give Kingston a path to fighting for the title at Double or Nothing, or being the filler title match for Kenny versus Christian at Double or Nothing. But instead, it kind of fizzled out. Now we have to deal with it over time. So at that point, yeah, it has to go down. At that point, classic OT. Not much you can do about botches, but it does bring down the enjoyment of a show.
I will say that I went in a different direction than you, and this is probably going to be a controversial score. I'm going to give it a goat face, 5 out of 5. I like you, and everybody else on the planet. I was tripped up by the final explosion fizzling out, but then I was sort of drifting because I really enjoyed this show a lot. So I was drifting in between a 4 and a 5. I drifted back over to a 5 once I saw what Moxley and Kingston did to bounce back from that storyline wise. That was the kicker for me. And I know there's a lot of people who are going to say, oh, that doesn't count. It was on Dynamite later on. But I was like, you know what? They stuck the landing in a way a lot of popular media doesn't for me lately. So screw it. They're getting it. 5 out of 5 goat face. Good job, AEW.
Hey, I'm not mad at it. It
good, because there's nothing you can do about it.
It was a very enjoyable show. I'm not gonna lie about that. It's just I'm basing my rating off of what I thought as soon as the show ended, not taking into account everything that happened afterwards. Just
well, what are you, a sensible person now?
Yeah, after the show ended, I'm like, it was a good show. There were some down parts. There were some cool down parts, and the end left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. So classic OT. We'll see what happens on Wednesday. They came out on Wednesday. They made a compelling story out of it. Good for them. For me though, I don't mark the continuation. That's just me though. Good for you for doing that. I enjoy that. I enjoy differences of opinion. It's so good.
Well, I'll tell you what, you are absolutely going to enjoy some differences of opinion because, like it or not, you got your picks led you to this point. Next week, you and me for the title, my friend, at Fastlane.
The most predictable pay-per-view of the entire year. We're gonna.
And I wish you the best of luck, sir. I do. I really do.
That's all right. Baby's coming home, whether it's Fastlane or WrestleMania. It's coming back where it belongs.
Keep telling yourself that, Chief. But now is the time in the show where we turn it over to you, our viewing, listening, and wrestling fan enjoying audience and other such words. What do you think of AEW Revolution? How deeply were you scarred by the failure to explode? That sounded horrible, but I don't care. You know what? No matter what your opinion is, we want to hear from you. YouTube comments, Facebook posts, no matter where you are, join the conversation, especially on Twitter, because as you saw, we're live tweeting all the time. You can join us at our main page at ScholarsOW for all the latest episode uploads, including this one. And you can also check us out on our personal Twitter accounts. Brian, where can they reach you?
You can reach me thinking up random conspiracy theories about the most predictable pay-per-view of the entire year, Fastlane, at Atomic Beanpole.
And you can check me out defending my lovely belt and the thoughts therein at I'm Robbie Rage. Join the conversation, check us all out, and hey, we're just 1 week away from Fastlane and 1 week behind us. It's even closer to WrestleMania. But then again, you already knew that, and you know who we are. We are the Scholars of Wrestling, and you have just been schooled. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
See you all